Hello and welcome to this brief overview of the 3TFL assignment. Well, what we're looking at here on this page is not the assessment criteria, which I'll come back to in a moment, but the learning outcomes followed by the activities that are involved in successfully completing 3TFL. And let's take each of those in turn. In Activity 1, and we'll be doing this on the day of our session together, you will need to devise and then deliver what they call a live online learning session, or presentation, or webinar. So you'll create that live online learning session of about 7 to 8 minutes and then present it. Now, I will be giving you some topics that I think lend themselves well to this task, and I'll also be giving you accompanying resources. If you want, however, you can choose your own topic and attach your own resources to that topic. Whichever way we go on this, I will want you in your presentation to include objectives, learning objectives, some slides, some form of question and answer to check on learning, possibly using the chat feature in a Google Meet. I want you to show a relevant link, at least one relevant link to appropriate resources which back up your session. It might be a CIPD fact sheet or the profession map. So for example, as part of your presentation, you might click on a link and show the new profession map as I've done here. And then if you wanted to, you could open up various parts of the map and discuss the content. So that's just an idea. And finally, as part of Activity 1A up here, I'll want you to have a conclusion at the end of your presentation. Depending on numbers, you will either do this individually or you'll do it with a partner or part of a small team. Well, let's look at Activity 1B now. And 1B asks you to take part in what they call a professional discussion with your tutor. And you'll need to explain some of the software you use, some of the theory of delivering live sessions, and how it differs from face-to-face activity. And I'll be giving you this information in my presentation before you begin to create your live online learning presentation. Let me show you the forms that I'll be using to do this. So this is the first part of the live online learning observation form. And this is the part that I complete. So if I just scroll down there, you can see that I'm judging your presentation against whether you created a positive learning environment, whether you used appropriate training techniques and methods, whether you had clear objectives, and so on. And you're asked to use a mix of training techniques and methods, and I'll explain what I mean by that when we begin our session. It has to be a tailor-made piece of digital learning content, so you will be creating it with me in the session. You'll then need to demonstrate your competence and the fact that you're comfortable with using the delivery technology. And you'll have to have some method of monitoring whether learning has taken place. But don't worry about this, I'll be taking you through it on the day. And finally, you're asked to use appropriate training techniques to close the activity. So this would be a summary and conclusion and some mechanism for learners to reflect on the session and to gain maximum benefit from it. That's the part of the form that I complete, so be aware of the criteria against which I'll judge your presentation. The second part of the form is you then really reflecting on the session, and you can see the criteria here, and I'll ask you to comment in text form against each of these criteria before I then review the form and ask you any further questions I might have. So really, it's just explaining the software that you used and the processes you followed, your view of the advantages and disadvantages of learning in this way, and again, how delivering online activity differed for you from delivering a face-to-face activity. What skills did it demand of you that more conventional forms of presentation wouldn't have done? And finally, you're asked to evaluate how you would judge the effectiveness of your training session. And that's it really. That is the professional discussion form and my tutor observation form of your live online learning. Activity 2 asks you to take away everything you've learned from our session together and from creating and delivering your own digital learning content. In 2A, you are asked to work individually or with partners in a team to create another piece of digital learning content that could be used in an e-learning program, as they say here. Now, I'm going to recommend to you the easiest way of putting together this learning content. And after our session's over, hopefully you'll have the skills and confidence to use some of the techniques we've developed over the day to produce an imaginative and effective piece of digital learning. What I'll ask you to do is give me a link to that piece of learning so that I can assess it and evaluate it. And alongside 2A, which is the digital content, you then need to write a short report. And you can see here what that report is asking you to do. So it's got a bit of theory in there, and that's the theory that I'll be covering in the morning of our one-day session together. In the report, you will need to identify 3 specific examples of content and evaluate each of them in terms of their potential to engage an audience and achieve objectives. And note, please, that one of the 3 examples must be the content you created in 2A, just above there. So in summary, as you can see at the bottom there, activity 1 is a recording of an online learning session and the professional discussion. We'll complete that on the day, or more or less complete that professional discussion on the day. Activity 2 is what you go away and do, creating digital learning content and an accompanying report. Well, I hope that's clarified 3TFL assignment for you. And if I just scroll right back here now to the assessment criteria, and I do want you to pay particular attention to the wording of these assessment criteria, because it's in this box here that I have to decide whether you've met or not yet met each individual assessment criterion exactly. So do read them carefully when it comes to your approach to 3TFL, and particularly review when you submit your assignment at the end that you've covered each of these areas in your assignment. Well, I hope that helped, and I look forward to our session together.